Billy the Liquor Guy here. The story you're about to hear, Under Too Long, is the story of bombs, drugs, untaxed alcohol, terrorism, and the undercover agents who brought it all down. Thanks for being here. Episode 9. In this episode, everything's on the line. From high-risk takedowns and deadly double crosses to unexpected allies and guardian angels, every decision was a gamble with life or death stakes. With powerful enemies closing in and trust becoming a liability, survival meant staying 2 steps ahead. The pressure was building fast. Let's jump back into the story.
Chapter 31, Chin Takedown. Chin's arrest happened early Saturday morning. Summer had begun to wrap up, and the chill in the air seemed to foreshadow what was to come. Jeff and I arrived at the warehouse at 7 a.m. with a picture of the boat in hand and handcuffs strapped under our shirts in the back. Stan's only request was for us to be thorough and discreet. "There's no room for errors here," he said over radio. "Take your time and stay off any other stations. Word does not get out until after we have everyone secured." Once our crew gave us the go-ahead, Jeff and I approached the black door in the alleyway. Chin arrived at the second knock, welcoming us to his office. Jeff dropped a wedge under the door, preventing the door from locking as I engaged Chin in bullshit chatter to distract him. As we made our way up the dim hallway, I showed Chin the picture of the boat. "That is beautiful," he said. "Where is it docked?" "Off my friend's pier in Long Beach. If you have the information I need, it's ready to go." "I love you guys," Chin said, opening his office door. "You're all business, no bullshit." I made a point of looking around before I took a seat beside Jeff so surveillance could count the 5 women in the room. "Okay," Chin said, handing me a sealed yellow envelope. "This should be everything you need." I opened the envelope to find the port listing, maps, boat styles, and names. He'd done it. Chin had handed us everything we needed. It was over. My adrenaline kicked in. "All right, Chin. Looks like our work here is done," I said, my code for surveillance to begin the takedown. Within seconds, screams filled the warehouse. Chin jumped up from his desk as alarms sprang through the rooms and the steel doors echoed. "We're being raided," Chin said, reaching for his drawer. "Not so fast," Jeff yelled, pointing his gun at Chin. "Keep your hands where we can see them." Chin looked at us in horror. "You are police," he said, the reality of who we were coming together. "Yes, sir," I said as agents flooded the room. Chin lowered his head in defeat and slumped in his chair. "No time for sitting, buddy," an agent said, pulling him up from his seat. "You'll have plenty of time to rest in prison." Chin didn't look at us as they escorted him to the hall. I felt bad for him, actually. This would be the end of his casino trips and fancy tailored ensembles. From now on, he would spend his days in orange jumpsuits, possibly washing dishes once he made good behavior. However, as for his mom, that was another story. I made a point to walk by her, cuffed and seated in the hall among several other women, and smiled. "You know what this fat guy is going to do tonight?" I said, squatting down so she could hear me. "I'm going to go home to my nice couch and big TV and order a shitload of Chinese food. Hope your night is just as good." Chin's mother just sneered at me and turned her head. It was 8 a.m. by the time Jeff and I got back into the van to head back, our work with Chin officially over. By 2 p.m., all units had dismantled everything within the warehouse, arrested 25 workers along with Chin, and collected enough information to keep them pulling overnights for weeks. Agents from Philip Morris were permitted to come down and claim their machines, and the trafficking unit was open to a plea deal. Everyone seemed to be happy, including Jeff and me, who were allotted a day of rest. But come Monday, the hype of the closed case pushed the remaining agencies into overtime. They were like dogs who tasted blood. Every single one of them wanted more. Chapter 32, Sunshine Warns Again. Drug trafficking agents urged me to phone Sunshine so they could close their case. "I thought you were smarter than that," she said into the line. "He was a cop, Silver." "Sunshine, no one was more shocked than me when he asked you for machine guns," I said. "Maybe he got turned. I don't know. But I'm done with him. I kicked him out of the van and left him in the Bronx. He might still be there if you look around." "Well, no one's knocked on my door, so maybe we're in the clear. He's out, Sunshine. We don't have to worry about him anymore. If he was a cop, we would have been arrested on the spot. I promise. The agents began to do a little happy dance around the warehouse as Sunshine set up a time to see me the following week. I'll take you for ice cream, I said. It'll be like old times. It's a date, Silver Fox. While the drug task force was eager to see how far we could go with Sunshine, fate decided to throw us yet another curveball. You have Albanians you're dealing with, correct? Sunshine phoned a few days later. You know I can't disclose to customers. What makes you ask? I met them a few weeks ago after a sale. They've been visiting my girls and one of them heard something. Where the heck did you meet these guys after a sale? I inquired, curious. At the Dairy Queen down the road. That's where all your businessmen meet before they come up there. Don't you know anything about your surroundings? I could see Nick scrambling to get a crew down to the Dairy Queen while I continued the conversation. Anyway, they're setting out to rob you. A stupid one told my girl their plan. They're coming disguised as cops. They're going to pretend to be undercovers and seize your products right under your nose. They're going to have guys in the woods too. They're armed. They are planning to take everything. I couldn't make this crap up if I tried. Criminals working with undercovers had planned to show up acting as undercovers to rob them. This was some Ocean's 11 shit. See if you can find out anything else, I told Sunshine. Will do, Silver, she said. And about that date. I've got something nice planned, just you and I said, trying not to sound too dismissive. A nice dinner where we can talk about white picket fences, a little house, and maybe a ring, and some little ones. You really are the real deal, aren't you, Silver? I don't know about that, I replied. I'm only who I can pretend to be. Sunshine laughed, mistaking my truth for comedy. Our security detail went into overdrive for the next 2 days, concocting ways the Albanians could break in. When the time came, the entire event went down just as Sunshine said it would. The Albanians showed up as scheduled. The two men we dealt with walked into the warehouse, making idle chit-chat. They looked Russian, short with broad shoulders, chiseled faces, and a worn exterior. They questioned our inventory. How many cigarettes you go through a week? The one with the rotten front tooth asked. What the fuck is that your business? I responded, stepping towards him. No business, he said, smiling. I'm just making talk. You know, being friendly. We don't do friendly here, I said. Jeff's phone rang. They're coming through the woods. Dismiss the Armenians now, Bobo yelled into the line. Jeff turned towards the two men. You two get the fuck out, Jeff hollered. We've got people roaming around in the backwoods. The men's faces dropped. How do you know that? They asked. You think we don't have security in this place? Jeff said, as if the men had asked the dumbest thing he'd ever heard. Now get the fuck out. Jeff whipped his pistol from the back of his pants and aimed it at the Armenians. Now, he yelled. The Armenians scrambled to the door, blubbering about their lack of cigarettes. I bolted the door behind them as Jeff sealed all other entrance points. We've got 6 guys spread through the woods, surveillance radioed. They're slowly approaching. Get ready. Having an army at your back was a welcome treat in times such as this. We climbed up to the loft, got into position, and aimed our puny guns at the door. Meanwhile, our team of soldiers were spread out on the warehouse level, their scope rifles shining on various parts of the door. The warehouse was quiet. Sweat trickled down the back of my neck as I contemplated everything that could go wrong. My biggest fear was that one of the Albanians would notice the agents with scopes pointed at them and react before we had a chance to. 2 men are approaching the door, surveillance stated. Red dots from their rifles covered the door. The door handle jiggled and twisted, but to no avail for the guys on the other end. Bam! They're attempting to kick the door in. Bam! I knew they weren't going to have much luck with a steel door, but I was still ready. Bam! Bam! After the 4th attempt, the warehouse went silent again. I waited, listening, but nothing happened. They have a crowbar, surveillance said after 5 minutes of empty air. Body-chilling scrapes, like nails on a chalkboard, echoed through the vast space. Over and over again, the scrapes, pounding, twisting, and manipulating of the handle continued. As the pounding sped up, I knew the guys were getting impatient. One of the agents began murmuring, "Please break. Please break." Keyed up to shoot someone, the agent's red dot was framed in the center of the door in hopes of a direct headshot. Bam! They're using their bodies now, 2 at a time. These guys are persistent. Bam! Between the slams, the Albanians began to argue. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but based on the tone and quick nature, I knew it was tense. The crowbar began to smash down on the handle as the men slammed into the door. again and again and again, until it suddenly stopped. Silence filled the warehouse. No one moved. We sat there waiting for what felt like an eternity. After 10 minutes, surveillance radioed back in. The site is clear. You're free to move about. No one jumped up from their positions. Everyone seemed to linger, contemplating how close we just come once again to another shootout. God damn it, the trigger-happy agent said as he removed his dot. I wanted to take on those fuckers firsthand. The rest of the guys joined in, each talking about who would have shot first, who had a better position, but I knew the truth. Besides Trigger Man, everyone was just as nervous as I was. The sweat that soaked through their dirty shirts said as much. I stretched my legs over the loft and made my way down the ladder, listening to these fools argue. Trigger Man wanted to explore the woods and had 2 agents ready to go with him. Guys, I said, stepping in the warehouse, the surveillance crew is on them. We need to stay put until they confirm they've apprehended them. The rest of the crew moaned and carried on some more. Even those who I knew would never follow Trigger Man chimed in with a few chicken shit comments. I wasn't bothered, though. I knew it was just a bunch of idiotic guys pent up on testosterone. 30 minutes later, surveillance radioed back in. Once the Albanians realized they couldn't get into the warehouse, they drove to the local Dairy Queen, where 4 other groups were waiting to purchase cigarettes, and robbed them. Dairy Queen had it all on tape, along with 3 different bystanders who called 911. The police followed them across state lines back into New York, where they arrested them on multiple charges. Our name and operation had been saved once again. Chapter 33, Hired as a Hitman. We continued to find multiple criminal angles within our clientele. Some of those angles, like a bomb deal, turned out to be legit, while others faded away. One of our largest Middle Eastern customers happened to be a prime example. This particular group showed up, religiously purchasing $100,000 worth of cigarettes in cash each week. Needless to say, this was a big deal for operation, as well as for the terrorism task force, who was tracking them to the full extent. While the large transactions were done exclusively with them, this group often sent transporters to pick up smaller orders if they ran short. During one of these visits, their count came up short. Angry, the group drove back up to our warehouse for an unscheduled visit and accused us of robbing them. Why would we steal cigarettes from your guy? I questioned, stepping into the angry group of men who were yelling at Jeff. Look around. Do you see a need for more fucking cigarettes, you idiots? I think you need to turn around and head back home to check your guy before things get a little colorful here. The men stood their ground, attempting to taunt us with their ugly sneers. Did you hear me? I asked, taking a step closer to their circle. Get the fuck out of here. Go home and see what you have going on with your guy. And when you find out it was your guy, I want you to bring your ugly asses groveling back here. You owe my guys and myself a big fucking apology. The men reluctantly dispersed, only to return 3 days later with an apology in hand, just as I had told them. Don't ever accuse us of such a stupid thing again. Understand? We don't operate like that. The men apologized profusely, but when their sorries were over, they hand-delivered a new line of criminal intent. We want you to take care of the guy, the tall, skinny one spoke up. Take care of how? I questioned. We are just businessmen. We want our money back from the guy who stole from us. We need to send a message to other people in our community. So, we're talking what? You want me to rob him? In our country, we deal with things of this nature differently. We don't want you to just rob. Obviously, I knew what they were implying, but if I were to push them or say the words myself, their attorney could claim I trapped them or misunderstood what they implied. Therefore, having these guys state exactly what they want me to do was of the utmost importance. Do I look like I'm from your country, guy? Stop playing around and tell me what you're looking for. I'm busy. We would like you to kill him, the tall one said, watching my face reaction. I gave myself a few seconds, hoping to appear as if I was considering their deal. The 2 fat gentlemen behind the tall, skinny one began giving each other the eye, while the tall one slowly rocked back and forth on his toes. Their discomfort gave me a sense of enjoyment. Well, something of that extent is going to cost you around $100,000, I said, settling my hands in my pockets. You boys got that type of money? The 3 Middle Eastern amigos huddled together to discuss. Okay, what if you were able to get the money back for us? If we get our money, we just want him shot, but no murder. So, you just want to show him harm if he has the money, I repeated. You don't want him dead, correct? No, only wounded if he has the money. If he has the money, we want him dead, the fat one interjected. Sounds fair enough. Would you give me a week to think about it? The men were excited and happy to grant me whatever time I needed. Once again, the surveillance crew was going nuts upstairs. After all that had been tossed our way, we didn't think it could get any bigger. Yet the cases kept coming. If we played our cards right, we now had an attempted murder case to add to our resume. It was thrilling, to say the least. When the men arrived the following week, we had FBI and ATF agents sitting in the wings. I'll need a gun, I told them. You have gun already, the skinny one said, pointing to the small pistol attached to my side. Use that one. Are you out of your fucking mind? I yelled. Why would I use my gun, which could be traced back to me? The deal is you show up with a gun, free of any of your grimy fingerprints and the guy's address. I'll take care of the rest. Got it? I don't know if they were getting cold feet or whether the money was an issue, but their plan changed as well. We decided we don't want him dead, just shot one time, the former murder-hungry fat one said. I don't work like that, gentlemen. If I'm going to shoot someone, I can't have them come back to identify me. It's bad for business. The men began discussing the terms, while I wondered if they come through or not. The answer was not. We cannot do murder, the skinny one said. We're already in trouble. We can't afford the risk. We want out. What if I lowered the price? You tell me what you boys can afford. No more shooting, the skinny one stated flatly. We no want to shoot any of our people. Too much problem. The deal was null and void, and again, if I attempted to push the issue, I could cost the DA the case in the end. But if I couldn't get these guys for conspiracy to commit murder, then I was definitely going to make sure they spent several years behind bars for their cigarette operations. So for now, I had to take the loss and play it cool. You do what you need to do. You change your mind, I'll be here with the same conditions. While the hire to kill crew continued to frequent our business, they sadly never spoke about murder possibilities or injury enforcement or anything that didn't pertain to our day-to-day transactions again. Chapter 34, I Choose You. With Chin arrested and the Albanians nailed, it was time to wrap up Sunshine. I went home that weekend for the first time in months, but my energy was too depleted to engage with anyone. I spent 2 solid days mostly asleep. When I did wake up, I'd move to the couch, put on a show, and fall asleep again. I'm not sure if it was the safety of my home, the softness of my bed, or the lack of fuel that I've been running on, but try as I might, I just couldn't stay awake. I don't know why you even bother to come home if you're just going to sleep while you're here, my wife said. She had grown restless and irritated with my caseloads and schedule. They're working you too hard. You should have had a break after your last operation. But they didn't give you one because they don't care what happens to you. They only care about what cases you can close for them. You're going to burn yourself out quickly. You need to pull back. Instead of taking my wife's knowledgeable advice, I mistook it for nagging. My mind was so caught up in my work and all the great I was doing that I couldn't see all the damage it had caused my family. I was so adamant about being right about my agency and her being so wrong that it cut my weekend at home short. I left after dinner on Sunday evening to get a head start on the next morning's work. I called Sunshine to speed up our case. I need more. You think you can bring me a kilo of Coke tomorrow? Billy, she asked, what are you going to do with a kilo? You'll see, I snickered. Can you bring it? I'll see what I can do, Sunshine said. Billy, should I be nervous about you? That's the last thing I want, I sighed. I've got enough people nervous for me. I need someone confident in me. Then that you shall have, she said as she clicked off the line. Sunshine rolled into the warehouse Tuesday morning with 2 girls tucked in her back seat. The girls were beautiful. They stepped out of the car alongside Sunshine, their long brunette hair reaching the middle of their backs, highlighting their tight dresses and slick heels. Are you interested? Sunshine asked, sliding up beside me where my mouth was hanging open. I quickly pushed my eyes back into my head. Of course not, I said, putting my arm around her waist. I'm not into brunettes. Well, you have to pick one if you want this kilo, Sunshine said, her security guard displaying the bag from his window. Pick one. What do you mean? I questioned, praying this wasn't going to turn into another Chin-Lu situation. To get that bag, you have to fuck one of my girls. I laughed, assuming Sunshine was playing with me. I'm serious, Silver. I need to make sure you are who you say you are. If you're not a cop, you'll fuck one of my girls. I'm a cop if I don't have sex with these girls? I said, raising my eyebrows at her. That seems a bit twisted. You have your way of doing business, and I have mine. 8 kilo is a big jump all of a sudden, so I need a little security. I'll give you all the security you want, I said, stepping close to her. I want a ring on that finger, a family, a house in the country. I want it with you. That's security enough, is it not? All that doesn't matter. My dealer gave me instructions. You're to fuck one of these broads before I leave. Then I choose you. Sunshine looked at me in surprise. My heart raced. I didn't know how the hell I was going to get out of this shit. But I did what I always did. I winged it. I grabbed her hand and pulled her into the warehouse bathroom, praying my mind would pull something out. I'm going to tell you something right now, I said, leaning her up against the sink. There is no way I'm going to have sex with you in a dirty warehouse bathroom. That is not going to happen. You deserve more than that, and I'm going to give it to you. But it sure as hell ain't going to be when I'm stinky and smelly and working with a bunch of animals. You've got to give me something better than that. Those are just words, Sunshine smiled up at me. I'll tell you what, I said, turning her around to face the sink. I've always had a fantasy of doing a line of coke off your beautiful ass. How about you let me blow a line? You're one kinky bastard, aren't you? Give me a line and you'll see. In one swift motion, I pulled Sunshine's pants down to her ankles, spread the coke she handed me on her ass, and pretended to snort a line. I have to say, the sight of her ass outside of her jeans gave me nightmares for days. Who knew a pair of blue jeans could make something so dimpled and saggy look regal? I whipped Sunshine back towards me, her pants still down, and looked her in the eyes. You ain't even seen half of what's going to happen between you and I. Silver Fox, I can't wait, she said, kissing me on the lips. Fix yourself up and meet me outside, I said, pretending to wipe my nose. Nick, El Babo, and Jeff were frozen in horror as I walked out of the bathroom. I gave them a broad smile as Sunshine walked out behind me. I took her hand, still playing in the boyfriend role, and escorted her to her car where she picked up the kilo from her security guard. I hope all you say is true, Silver. I want to build a life with you, Sunshine said. Dinner in New York next week. Best dinner you ever had. I smiled and grabbed her ass. Sunshine giggled and trotted back to her car. As soon as she sped out, the guys were all over me. You're in huge trouble. You know that, right? El Babo stated. I got the coke, I said. Nobody is going to care about shit other than the fact that this case is about to come to a close now, too. Within minutes, I could hear the screams coming off Jeff's phone from Brandy and Rosso's coming over El Babo's line. In that moment, I was actually more scared of facing those two than I was facing bad guys. Chapter 35, Sexual Relations. I was summoned back to New York City within hours of the warehouse deal. Rosso went down one side of me and up the other side before Stanton could close the door. I know you are crazy. You've been a crazy bastard since day one, but this is too much. You're having sex with girls in the bathroom? Have you lost your mind? I didn't have sex with her. Don't try to give me that bullshit. Respect me enough to tell me the truth. I know you had sex with that girl. We all do. You've possibly just put this whole operation in jeopardy by your selfish move. Stanton, you know me better than that, I pleaded. I did not have sexual relations of any kind in that bathroom. Even I'm not that crazy enough to do that. Then why pull her into the bathroom off camera? Stanton questioned. That was the first time Stanton didn't have my back, and it hurt. I felt like a wounded dog reprimanded by its owner. You've broken every rule we've given you. You've defied orders and went about cases on your own. And now you've finally gone too far. It's always something with you. We're always cleaning up your mess to ensure the case for the state. Yet you keep giving us more spills to handle. Spills that you like to pour in our faces and smile about. Guys, I'm sorry. I know it seems like a lot of chaos at times, but I bring you the end result that you need, don't I? At what cost? Russell sneered. How the hell do we explain how our prime undercover walked off the tape with the perpetrator who he stated he was going to have sex with? Are you going to take the heat and explain to the world how you managed to take a woman who arrived requesting you have sex with her, 2 hookers, into the bathroom without having sex with her, yet still managed to obtain the coke she wasn't willing to give you? Give me the forms and I will sign right now. This was my fault and I will take responsibility, I said, suddenly aware of what my actions might have caused me. Russell sat there glaring at me. Stanton, you have to believe me, I said. I would never have sex with that woman and put her whole case in jeopardy. I acted out of instinct. Taking her in the bathroom was all I could think to do in the moment, and it worked. I got the coke and further deals in line. I sacrificed myself and took a risk for the team, and it worked out. If you feel that's what you did, then I agree you should take the heat on this one. You'll have a lot of questions that are going to come from this. But if you feel this was your best option as an undercover, then I will back you. Russell pulled a piece of paper from his drawer and slid it across the desk. Better get to writing then. Stanton and I have a lot more to discuss. I exited the room, wrote up exactly what had happened, leaving no detail unturned. When I walked back into the office, Russell took one look at my statement and ripped it up. You really are a fucking moron, he said. You're going to make every single one of us lose our jobs. Russell pulled out another sheet of paper from his drawer and began writing. I sat there beside Stanton and watched his angry scribbles fill the white sheet. Now sign it, Russell said as he passed the paper to me. It read, due to the integrity of the operation and safety of officers involved, I made the perpetrator bend over a sink and with her face turned away from me, gave her the impression that I did a line of coke off her buttocks. While the act was conducted off camera, there was no other way to get out of the situation. As the prime undercover, I made the choice to protect the safety of the officers involved by taking matters into my own hands. From my actions, we were able to secure a sale of cocaine and regain our undercover to continue with operations. That statement was distinct, intelligent, and to the point. I picked up a pen and signed it. Now, that's out of the way, Russell stated. We need to discuss the end of this operation. The words caught me off guard. My head shot up in Russell's direction. It got out of hand. It needs to end. Stanton and I have agreed that we want all rest to come over state lines into Yonkers. We'll establish a new home base, give the terrorism task force time to set up, and take down each unit as they arrive. How soon are we talking? This will be your last week, Russell said coldly. You'll begin informing all customers of your move, providing them with a new address, and begin gathering your goods. 2 weeks from now, Operation Keystone will no longer exist. It was hard to believe that all this was going to come to an end. Yet at the same time, a wave of relief washed over me. We were about to leave unscathed, unharmed, and undetected, with a positive closed case in hand once again. This time I didn't feel like a punishment had just been handed down. Instead, I felt like a vacation had been awarded. Billy, you're one crazy bastard, Russell said as I rose from my seat. But you have balls of steel and a big heart. When you finally get killed, we'll make sure we put that on your gravestone. Most people would have been offended by his statement. I was too far gone to recognize any ill will. Instead, I found myself walking out of the office thinking about how cool my gravestone would look to those walking past. Chapter 36, My Guardian Angel. We relocated to a new warehouse in Yonkers 2 weeks later. It was smaller than our Pennsylvania location, but it was fenced off salvage yard away from residential housing. The garage, which acted as a tire rotation service, was owned by a former CI who owed Stanton a favor. He was paid for a little vacation while we spent the week bringing customers in front and arresting them in back. The takedowns were easy on our end and proved prosperous for the terrorism task force, as one of the individuals held an entrance ticket to the Twin Towers in his wallet. The ticket was dated September 10th, the day before the towers were hit. By the end of the day, the task force had sealed and contained every member of this guy's family and working relations, as well as the individuals and their family members that he did business with at his corner shop in Brooklyn. At 5 o'clock, we had successfully gone through a dozen procedures. However, the next one would be our doozy. During our cigarette operations, the bad guys often pulled up with someone new, someone they wanted to show the business off to. On any other day, we welcomed newbies. It was another case for us and another lead. But today was the day of closing. We had everything marked to the wire. So I told Husan, our customer for the past 3 months, that we couldn't allow any new clients. Husan looked at me confused. He's a good guy, he said. I don't care what he is. He can't be here today. I repeated, leaning onto the driver's side window. The passenger looked at me with pure hatred. "Who the fuck are you?" he said, his words drawn out and heightened with anger. "I'm your buddy's fucking supplier," I said, standing upright, "and now your buddy needs to turn the fuck around and let himself out." Before my mind could process what happened, the passenger reached around and grabbed a 9mm from his seat, stretched his hand out and pulled the trigger. Boom! It was that quick. My ears buzzed from the shot and my body went numb. I watched the Arab jump out of the truck and run towards the front gate. As I watched him, a surge jolted through my body. No way was this motherfucker getting away from me. No way was I spending my life in fear of someone who'd seen my face, tried to shoot me, and gotten away. As I scrambled to my feet, suddenly aware that I hadn't been hit, I saw Bobo take off after him. Stunned, I walked to the gate and watched as he chased the bastard for 2 blocks, right until another police unit rolled onto the scene and threw him to the ground. I stood there listening as the Arab yelled things I couldn't understand. Nick later explained he was wishing us death. As the officers peeled away with the Arab stewing inside the car, the sky opened and it started to rain. The drops felt cool on my skin, which is burning from adrenaline. Jeff met up with us on the street, making sure El Bobo and I were okay. I needed a moment. I was shaken, but I didn't want the guys to see. I wandered around the dilapidated area looking for a place to piss as an excuse to get away. At the end of the alleyway was an old Ford truck, its hood lifted and its parts stripped. I leaned on the side of the truck and a voice shouted, "You're peeing on my house." I was already rattled, so the shout startled me even further. Without thinking, I grabbed my gun and whipped around to see a thin black man peering at me from the truck bed. "What you going to shoot me for?" he said. He had very few teeth. "You're the one peeing on my house." Through my shock, it dawned on me that this man was living in the truck. "I'm sorry," I said as I lowered my gun. "I didn't realize anyone was here. You frightened me." "That's okay, man." He smiled. "Ain't no one want to be arrested for indecent exposure around here anyway. You want to come in and get out of the rain?" For a moment, the thought of escaping into his truck sounded enticing. But as I looked to the main street, I could see Jeff pacing back and forth waiting for me. I politely thanked him for the offer and excused myself. We had 3 more takedowns to go and our day would be officially done. I couldn't stall any longer. At this point, everyone needed the day to be over. The Arab had been the final kicker for a life that had been filled with too much excitement. The rest of the takedowns went on without incident, though I was on edge with each car that pulled in. We kept it smooth, quick, and to the point. We didn't have any more runners, any problems, or anyone not willing to talk. Even the Arab, who'd been so quick to shoot me dead, was the first to rat on his boss in hopes of avoiding an American jail, as he put it. Apparently, the American jail was worth my life, because had the gun not backfired, I would have been dead. We couldn't leave the warehouse until 10 p.m. that evening, when we finally detailed the last sting. "You okay to go back to your hotel yourself?" Stanton questioned as we locked down the warehouse. "I'm fine," I assured Stanton, and everyone else who seemed to have watched me with close eyes. "I just need a nice swim and a good sleep." As it turned out, sleep was the last thing my body wanted to give me. Even after a hard swim in a hotel pool and a hot shower, I laid in the bed until 3 a.m., watching the clock. I didn't know if I finally drifted off or not, but when I reopened my eyes, I saw my great-nephew Joey hovering above me. There he was in his little white burial suit and hat with these little wings. My body calmed at the sight of him, and I finally fell asleep. It wasn't until I woke up that afternoon that I processed his image. Joey, who was only 3 months old when he passed away, had been gone for a mere 5 months. My head flooded with the knowledge that he had been watching over me that day. He was what had caused the gun to misfire. I wouldn't tell anyone that story for months, as I was afraid it made me sound crazy. But in that moment, I curled over in the hotel sheets and cried uncontrollably. The shock of what had happened sat with me for a while. Here I was, a cop with 32 years under my belt and 10 years undercover, and I couldn't shake the fear I had. Couldn't shake the adrenaline or the memory of looking straight into the barrel of the gun.
Surviving those missions came at a cost. Trust shattered, enemies made, and the line between right and wrong blurred beyond recognition. But with the stakes rising and no safe way out, the only option was to keep going. Stick around. The final battles are just ahead.